All right, and we're back here once again on the Couch Coach Live, Super Week edition. Definitely, I was had some great shows this week. Had to bring in my guy Da. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be on the show. I'm a big fan of yours and love to talk with somebody who knows what they're talking about. So it's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, and always big fan of you as well, man. Definitely love what you're doing. Obviously, 33 podcasts, and then also the real deal with Damian Adams as well. So, man, um, yeah, we gonna talk about a little bit of the Super Bowl, talk about LeBron breaking that scoring record. But you know what's so funny with us? Obviously you being a Saints fan, me a Commanders fan, we got somewhat bragging rights. We are two of the three teams that beat the Philadelphia Eagles this year.
We
So
are.
I look at that. I look at that situation and say, you know what, we kind of could give these Chiefs fans somewhat some insight on how to beat this team potentially. But I digress on that point. But so we'll get into it. So obviously LeBron James did in fact break the scoring record. Obviously a record that was held for almost 39 years. He broke the scoring record on Tuesday night. So Da, what's your thoughts on LeBron shattering his record?
Man, it just really shows a crazy level of excellence and consistency, right? When you think about the fact that this record was 39 years old, it shows you how crazy consistent Kareem was.
Yeah.
And the fact that LeBron broke it shows how crazy consistent he is. And to be on this level of excellence for 20 years and break a record that a lot of us thought would never be broken, right? We thought it was up there with, Wilt's 100-point game and stuff like that you'll never see again. And LeBron continues to amaze, right? You think about the fact that he came out of high school as the chosen one on the cover of SI, and everybody's like, this guy's going to be the next Michael Jordan. He created his own lane now where now people are going to be searching for the next LeBron. It's just amazing, man, to see somebody do this. And I just want to appreciate what it is, right? And I know this is going to spark the whole GOAT debate again. And some people, this might change their mind. But I just want to appreciate what this is in a vacuum, right? Like LeBron being able to do this and still have a lot of tread on tires. Like he can push this record to 42,000 points, and push it to a point where now I'm going to be the same way people were talking about Kareem's record. We're going to be talking about LeBron's record. Like, man, ain't nobody going to touch this. And I do think that he will hold the record for a very, very long time, if not forever, because the way that superstars are handled today with the load management, and if they, sprain a toe or they mess around and break a nail, they missing the game, you're not going to have anybody play enough games. They might play 20 years because of the way we know about our bodies and the nutrition and all that stuff, but they're not going to play enough games and be this good long enough to break this record. So I think LeBron's legacy, even though he's not a score first player, that's the crazy part. He's more of an all around guy. He wants to pass the ball and have that type of movement. But the fact that he was able to break this record and it not be his goal is absolutely phenomenal, man. So just all the props in the world and all the flowers to LeBron for this.
Yeah, and it's funny that we got to this point where even I know when it's funny because when Steph Curry broke his record, well, Steph Curry broke the Ray Allen's record for most 3-pointers, and I was saying that's gonna be probably second to the last ceremonial moment that we'll probably get to see in our generation because you just and we knew this the night like Tuesday night was gonna happen. It was a great. I think it's just one of those where you like you said you gotta give it up to him because you gotta think he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated in high school back when Sports Illustrated was a big thing. I mean,
Yeah.
now it is what it is. Just the advent of social media, but that was a big deal for a high school player, much less just anybody, to be
Yeah.
on the cover of Sports Illustrated and to have those lofty expectations and live up to the hype. And it's just like you said, just a testament to his grind. And like you said, playing 20 years, and then you got to still think considering the fact this man been in the NBA Finals half of his career.
Yeah.
So that's another thing when you look at it. It's just like it's just an amazing feat. And like you said, it was a moment that we all should have enjoyed.
Yeah.
Put everything aside, if you love the NBA, this is going to be a moment that we probably never going to see where a record is broken to a point where there's going to be stoppage of play and we can actually sit down and actually enjoy the moment. And it was a great moment. And yeah, I'm definitely, like you said, it's amazing to think all this stuff that was on him from the jump, and he exceeded expectations. So this is such a great moment, and I was so glad that Kareem was there, and and he sucked it up. And people got to understand, Kareem is like 80 years old, so it's like he's not gonna have that like that vigor and energy as a lot of people think he should have. But
Yeah.
he's in most time he's out of the spotlight anyway, so it probably was somewhat of a damn near uncomfortable experience for him, in a sense, potentially.
Yeah, I'm glad he was there as well. I love the picture of him handing the ball to LeBron as passing the torch to him. And there's also a picture I saw today where when he broke Wilt's record, where Wilt was there to pretty much pass the torch. So I love that he was here to celebrate that moment and be there and be a part of it. It was just so dope, man. I saw people complaining about the game being stopped for so long. Like, bro, it was a Tuesday night. You're watching two teams at the bottom of the Western Conference. The only reason we tuned into the game was to see LeBron break this record. It's not like he was worried about what the Thunder are doing. The Thunder have a nice young team. I like SGA. He's really good. But you're not tuned in to be like, let me see what SGA does tonight. You were tuned in to see what LeBron James did if he could break the record and I love the fact that he broke it in this type of way where he needed to score 38 points, where it wasn't, he only had 2 points and we knew it was going to happen in the first quarter or something like that. He broke it in a point where it was suspense. We didn't know. And then he started off the game kind of slow. So at first I was like, oh, maybe he won't break it tonight. Maybe he'll have to wait till he play against the Bucks. But then, that he started turning it on and you could tell he was going for it because his shot really hasn't been there this year. The 3-point shot, it was there on Tuesday night for sure. And I love the picture of the moment he releases the fadeaway to break the record. You see Thomas Bryant asking for the ball. Like, bro, he wasn't getting the ball, bro.
Right.
He wasn't. he wasn't getting the ball in that moment, bro. But I loved it. I loved everything about it. Let him have his entire moment. The family come on. It wasn't like if the game was close in the fourth quarter, you don't stop it, right? Because you don't want to stop the momentum. It's a close game, and both teams need this game. They're both fighting for the play-in. But since it happened in the third quarter, let it stop it. Let's fully enjoy this moment. And like you said, this record is the type of record that deserves this type of celebration. And I don't know if those other records that will be up there will get broken. Like maybe John Stockton's assist record. Maybe somebody less young right now, like a Luka or a Trae Young, could stay around that long. But you asking a lot for them to stay around that long, even though they have great passing ability. So that's one question I wanted to ask you. What other records do you think deserve this level of celebration?
You know what? It's crazy. I don't see nothing in like as far as I'm talking about dome. I don't see nothing that would equate to this. Even the 3-point one was a great feat.
Yeah.
But scoring, I think this is going to be it. Like this is something where the creme de la creme. And like you said, assist, it probably will get its time, but I don't think it's going to be like a sort of a stoppage of play.
Yeah. I don't know, because John Stockton held that record for a long time, and I can see him holding it for even, another decade or so before somebody gets close. So it could get to a point where people are like, wow. But it is also with an assist, do you just stop right at that moment? It's not the same finality as somebody hitting that shot,
Yeah.
But that one is up there. The steals record, John Stockton's steal record is up there as well. But that's another one where you can't just stop play because you get a steal, you want to go on a fast break, get the so you don't want to just stop play on a steal. Like that would be crazy. So, like, somebody steal the ball, need to stop. Like, yo, got the record. Like
in the middle of a fast break, like we're gonna stop the game.
Yeah, that would be nuts. So yeah, only thing I could see if somebody goes crazy and gets 100 points. But that's the thing, you can't plan for that, right? That's something that's going to happen. If it does happen ever, it will just happen one crazy night and you would have to celebrate it afterwards. You can't just You would stop the game to acknowledge it, but you wouldn't have a video ready. People wouldn't be there, So
Yeah.
I don't see, maybe if you go to football, like if somebody breaks Jerry Rice's touchdown record, that's something that's on this level, I think, where you would have to stop the game, make sure that person gets all his flowers and everything else. But there's not too many records like this, man. LeBron really did something that truly remarkable. It's truly remarkable.
It definitely is. And then the thing that killed me was everybody was so upset that he actually went out after the game after they lost. I'm like, we gotta stop. We literally have to stop being the fun police.
Yeah. No,
And
we
it's just
definitely
like,
have to stop. Yeah.
so what y'all thought he was gonna be upset because he lost the game? He broke a record that's almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
He's the all-time leading scorer in NBA history, and you think he's gonna be upset because he lost the game?
Yeah.
Guys, we gotta stop.
Yeah, for sure. You think about it, put it in this perspective. Everybody plays basketball. Like everybody has like, even if you only done it one time, everybody's going to a basketball court, hoop, whatever, and shot it up at the rim. Out of everybody who's done that in history, he has the most points at the highest level to do it. Like, think about it in that way. Everybody in the world has played basketball, and on the best league in the world, he has the most points ever. Like, it's absolutely crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely unreal. And it's funny. We talked about this moment. So LeBron's gonna have some new teammates. So obviously, there was a three-way trade with the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Timberwolves. So in this deal, the Lakers did receive D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt. The Jazz get Russell Westbrook, Juan, and then also the Wolves end up getting Mike Conley Jr. and Nickeil Alexander Walker, Virginia Tech product.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on this trade, and actually, where do you think Russ is going to go?
Yeah, I don't see Russ staying in Utah at all. Like I see him getting bought out. Yeah, because his relationship with the Utah fans isn't the greatest, if you guys remember. So I definitely don't see him staying there. So I see him getting bought out. I don't know. I don't know where Russ would go. Like what team is looking for Russ? That's the crazy thing about Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook obviously can still play basketball, but his style of play and the negatives about his game can hurt you so much. Like even the game Tuesday night, he played, like you look at the raw stats, you're like, okay, 22, 8 assists, but then you see 6 turnovers. And you're like, oh, this is the Russ. And he even shot well. He made 4 out of 7 threes. But you're like, that's not gonna be consistent. Like that shot isn't gonna be there consistently. And he's still a great athlete, but he's no longer just miles above everybody else. When he was in his prime, athletically, he was the most athletic guy on the court most nights, unless there was LeBron or Giannis there, somebody like that. But most nights he was the most athletic guy. Now you lose a half a step and you still have those bad tendencies. You're still a bad defender. Like when you look at the advanced metrics, somebody put the list on Twitter the other day. You look at the advanced metrics, he's among the worst defenders out there. And it doesn't make sense for him being athletic. But so I don't know who needs him and where he can go to be like a 6 man off the bench to help a team win. You thinking maybe Minnesota. Like Minnesota, they can use that guy off the bench right now. It's very heavy on Anthony Edwards as far as their offensive output. Yeah. I'll have to like sit down and really think about where Russ could go. But there's a reason why it took so long to get him traded, because they've been looking to trade Russ. So there's a reason it took so long to get him traded, and it had to be a 3-team deal. And it had to be a team like the Jazz, who were just looking to unload salary to restart their rebuilding process. So the fact that he didn't get traded to a team that actually wants him says a lot about the Russ situation.
Yeah. It's going to be definitely interesting who's going to pick him up. I did see some like stuff prior to the trade. People were saying maybe he'll go to the Clippers, because everybody thinking maybe John Wall is going to be out.
Okay.
Which I don't know. And then I've even heard Miami, but a part of me is like, I don't see Miami either. And I'm like, it's gonna be interesting though. I definitely think like you said, who's gonna be that team that really that will want him and him having that kind of that role, that 6-man role. Who's in that kind of in that market for that? So that's like I said, that's going to be the intriguing. But I definitely like what the Lakers did with this because obviously, because pretty much they was going to lose Russ anyway. In the offseason. So to get a D'Angelo Russell, I think that's good for them. And maybe Malik Beasley can get himself together in the sense where, I mean, even though he was good in Minnesota, I mean, he's had his time from there. So I wonder how that's going to be. And I think they got some nice, good young pieces down the line. Because, they definitely won't try to give away that 2029 first round pick to say they like. They like, nah. Which
Well,
I understand.
Yeah, they figure they're going to be maybe at that point rebuilding, maybe bad.
Yeah.
And that pick may be, whatever young kid is a phenom right now could be that pick for that year. But I do like what they did in this trade. The one thing we said they needed for sure was shooting and defense. They got that, right? Now, D-Lo is the shooting. He's not going to provide any defense for you. but he's been shooting the ball very, very well. Malik Beasley can definitely shoot the ball. Vanderbilt is a good defender. So you get that shooting, that defense. The year they won the championship in the bubble, they had shooting and defense around LeBron and AD. You think about Caruso. You think about KCP. They had guys who can shoot the ball and play defense for you. And for some reason, they went away from that. And obviously it didn't work out. So I think this is a good trade. Does it make them someone who can get in the top 6 in the West? That's still tough. But the West is so bunched up, and I know we'll talk about that with my Pelicans here. The West is so bunched up that any team in that 4 to 12, 13 range has a chance to get in there and get in that top 6 in the playoffs and avoid the play-in. So this is a really good trade for the Lakers to try to make that move and at least be competitive enough to say, okay, we can make the playoffs, and maybe in the Western Conference, we got LeBron and AD, we can compete with anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we'll talk about your Pelicans, DA. So obviously, I think we're currently 8th in the West.
Yeah.
Got a game coming up with the Cavs tonight. So, what's your thoughts on this season thus far for the Pelicans?
Very streaky. That's our team, right? Like if we're gonna do one thing, we're gonna go on a streak. Now it could be winning, it could be losing, but we're gonna go on a streak, right? Recently had a 10-game losing streak. Currently on a 3-game winning streak. Going into this game against the Cavs, it's a big game against the Cavaliers. Cavs are a really good team. I love watching the Cavs play. Like whenever it's a night where the Pelicans aren't playing and I just want to watch basketball, I always gravitate towards watching Cleveland play because they play such a good style of defense, right? And I know a lot of people complain about defense not being played in the NBA. The Cavaliers play defense. So it's going to be a tough game for the Pelicans tonight. But as far as the Pelicans season, we just got to get more consistent and not be as streaky. Now, part of that is having players available. Right now, Zion is hurt. It was announced that he'll be out through the All-Star break. Hopefully, right after the All-Star break, he's able to come back and be Zion. You don't want to rush it because it's a hamstring. You definitely don't want to re-aggravate a hamstring injury with him being such a big guy and somebody who uses his legs in the way he does. You don't want to aggravate that because then you can have something that's lingering. So I get why they're taking their time. But since Brandon Ingram is now back, that should soften the blow of having Zion out. We started the last 3 games. The last 3 games, I've seen a team that's getting back to being that team that at the beginning of the year looked like a top contender in the West. And I think that we can be that. We have a very deep squad. And one thing that I think we should do going forward to get the best out of us is we should start Larry Nance Jr. at center. If you've seen the Pelicans play, Larry Nance Jr. is our backup center. He comes in and he provides really good defense. He's versatile, can switch. And I think that we should put him in a starting lineup and have Jonas Valanciunas come off the bench. Now, some people might think that's crazy because Jonas Valanciunas is a 20-10 guy, consistently can get you points. But why not have him come in and have the second unit run the offense through him? And he doesn't hurt you as much defensively. That's the thing. Jonas Valanciunas is trash on defense. He's absolutely horrible on defense. It's like he's a bigger guy, can't really move his feet. So defensively, he really costs you. You have to work around him defensively. With Larry Nance Jr. out there, especially if Zion's back. So you think about the starting line with Larry Nance Jr. You have CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and Larry Nance Jr. You have enough offense out there with CJ, BI, and Zion. You don't need that fourth scorer in JV. So I think that if we go with that type of lineup where we have both offense and defense out there at the same time, we can really start to propel and go forward. But the last 3 games, we've played really well on both ends. And Brandon Ingram starting to get back into being himself. He missed damn near 2 months with a toe injury. And you see now he's starting to be himself again, especially against Atlanta. He really balled out in that game and did well. So I know I'm being long-winded right now. Like I'm a Pelicans head. I'll be watching all the games. but one thing, we just got to stop being so streaky. Like I would rather us go 2-1 than go 4 wins, 5 losses, 4, like just be more consistent. And as far as just when Zion comes back, don't put too much on him. Don't look to him to be the savior. That's the reason why Brandon Ingram is an all-star caliber player. CJ McCollum, all-star caliber player. Those guys can do things for you. Let Zion ease his way back in. And then once playoffs come around, hopefully we're in the top 6. We don't have to be in that play-in. And a healthy team, a healthy Pelicans team, I can see getting out the Western Conference. I know Denver is there and they're really good. We've played Denver tough this year in all 3 games. Golden State's been struggling this year. Memphis is going through a big struggle period right now. They don't know if they want to be gangsters or basketball players. So you have a lot of things going on in the West right now. So I think the Pelicans being healthy come playoff time, this team could be really dangerous.
For sure. So staying in New Orleans, so we gotta talk about potentially QB1 for this team, but potentially. Yeah. So Derek Carr did visit the Saints on Wednesday. So your thoughts on Derek Carr's visit, and just your thoughts on would you want Derek Carr to be your starting quarterback in 2023?
Yeah, I'm loving the fact that he was able to visit with us. Hopefully we can make something happen where we can get him. I know that we would have to make some things move around with the cap, but anybody who knows the Saints knows that we know our way around the salary cap for sure. We've been doing that for a very, very long time. We've been putting those minimal payments on the credit card for a very long time when it comes to the salary cap. And Derek Carr is a good quarterback. Like in Las Vegas, for some reason, it didn't work out. I think it was more about the coaching. Josh McDaniels has not shown himself to be a good coach. Derek Carr has had years where the team was less talented and he was able to get them to the playoffs, have them be competitive. And this year they had all the talent on the outside, but for some reason couldn't generate just momentum offensively. They played the Saints. The Saints weren't good this year. We blew them out like 24-0. So when you see a team struggling like that, it's more than just a quarterback. So I think Derek Carr was just a scapegoat and they wanted to get out of his contract. He's still a good quarterback. And with the weapons we have, that's the thing. Our defense was very good the second half of the year. I believe we had either the top defense or the second best defense the second half of the season. And you mentioned that we beat the Eagles. Big part of that was the defense. Our offense didn't do anything that game. So our defense was playing very, very well to end the year. So we can carry that over, have our defense continue to play well, and then bring back a healthy offense. Michael Thomas, somebody pray over his body, somebody throw some change into a waterfall, do something so Michael Thomas can stay healthy. But Chris Olave was, one of the top rookies this year. I think he's going to continue to get better. And Jarvis Landry, hopefully he can stay healthy. We just had a lot of injuries on offense last year, and Andy Dalton just wasn't it. So Derek Carr to the Saints, I think can make us, especially in NFC South. NFC South is wide open. So you get Derek Carr there. Next thing you know, you're one of the favorites to be a playoff team next year. So I would love to see Derek Carr to the Saints.
For sure. So let's get into some Super Bowl talk. So obviously we got the big game in 2 days from, really in 48 hours from now. Well, we got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So DA, what's your Super Bowl 57 storylines to watch?
Wow, this one has a lot of storylines, right? You have the obvious ones, like it's the Andy Reid Bowl. You have, the Kelsey Bowl. You have the first time we have 2 black quarterbacks starting the Super Bowl, which is, amazing to see. Yeah. But for me, the storyline that I'm going to be really watching is with Philadelphia. They have some players who were there for the Super Bowl prior when they won with Nick Foles, but most of these guys are their first time in this situation. So are they overwhelmed by what's going on in Glendale? this week, right? Are they overwhelmed by all the things going on, and do they start off slow? Do they not play like themselves, right? They've been a very aggressive team this year. Philadelphia is a team that's not scared to go on fourth down. Are they a little more cautious because they're playing against Patrick Mahomes? That first drive for Philadelphia, I want to see if they're aggressive. They push the ball down the field. If it's 4th and 3 on the 47, do they go for it? Or do they say, oh, we're going to punt it because we don't want to give Patrick Mahomes a sharp field and not be themselves? So I think the biggest storyline is, will Philadelphia continue to be the team that was dominant throughout most of this year? Or will this moment be too big for them? And will they play into the Chiefs' hands?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, I think like the storyline, I think it's so interesting. Like you said, I call this the trading places type of situation where obviously we know Andy Reid was a coach for the Eagles. So when he, went over to, to the Chiefs, and it's funny, he gets fired on a Monday and get hired on a Friday. So I always, every year in the coaching carousel, I always say, who's going to be the Andy Reid? Who's going to be the one that could get fired in the beginning of the week and have a job at the end of the week?
Oh, that was old boy this year from Dallas.
Yeah, Kellen Moore, 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
They said, shoot, forget that. Like, no, there's no vetting process. Like,
yeah,
we wanted you from the jump. So I think, and then obviously, then like him going to Kansas City, and then one of the first things he did was probably was essentially firing Nick Sirianni.
Yeah,
because Nick Sirianni was on that Romeo Crennel staff. Obviously, he was hired by Todd Haley. Then he was able to stay on with the Crennel regime. So I look at that as well too, and I think this can be a series-defining Super Bowl for Andy Reid, where he comes and he'll go into a rare air if he gets that 2 Super Bowls, where that puts him up in a notch. Because Andy Reid is always kind of one of those coaches that everyone loves him. And then, just considering the fact that he does have that one single Super Bowl. But if he gets 2, he's going to get elevated. And if he loses, I mean, essentially that's 3 losses in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be and, just the fact of, like you said, Philly's personality, will they counter that in a sense where, like you said, they go for broke on certain situations? They love to blitz. Mm-hmm. Is this situation where, like you said, do you still keep? In other words, I put it this way: is Philly gonna acquiesce to Kansas City, or they just gonna play their way and impose their will like they've done all year? So that's going to be kind of one interesting subplots of this game.
For sure. No, that's a big one. Another one is, who's going to step up for Kansas City, not named Travis Kelce? Like, that's going to be the big one. They need one of those wide receivers to win one-on-one matchups. I think I can see Philadelphia trying to play man-to-man and maybe bracketing Travis Kelce or having some different coverages on Travis Kelce. But the rest of the wide receivers, they're like, we trust our cornerbacks to guard you guys. So one of those guys has to step up. Maybe it's, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Maybe he'll step up and be that guy. He was that guy against Cincinnati. So maybe you're looking to him to be that guy. But one of those wide receivers has to step up, or it's going to be a rough night for Patrick Mahomes, because as great as he is, he needs somebody to throw the ball to. Like, he can't throw it to himself. And this secondary for the Eagles is very good. They're number 1 against the pass for a reason. And also is that, a defensive line and that pass rush, of course, being one of the greatest pass rushes of all time, all the sacks they've accumulated this year. But even if that offensive line holds up, that secondary is going to hold up as well. So what wide receiver is going to step up for Kansas City? That's the one I'm really going to be watching for sure.
Big time. So any intriguing matchup that you're looking to see in this game?
So for me, it's, who do they put on Travis Kelce? Do they go with what the Saints used to do with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, where they would put him one-on-one with a tight end, and he would hold his own most times? The only time I remember him really having a bad day was when we played against 49ers a couple years ago, and George Kittle cooked him. But outside of that, he would do a really good job in those matchups. They could go that route, or they could try to say, maybe they say, oh, we're going to put one of our best corners on him. But then do you put a corner on him and then Travis Kelce just big bodies him, right? Like, that's the
right.
thing. So my most interesting matchup is who do they decide to put on Kelsey and how do they decide to guard him? Because if they take Kelsey out, that's when that whole other scenario I was talking about comes up about what wide receiver steps up.
Yeah, and I think, and I know this is cliche, but especially in a game like this, it's gonna be in the trenches. So I think the biggest matchup I really want to see in this is going to be the Chiefs offensive line versus Phillies defensive line, and we know that that the Chiefs offensive line has improved considering the 2021 Super Bowl 2 years ago, where Patrick Mahomes just throwing for his life, and and the crazy thing about all that, if he had seconds, he could have did some stuff because he was really close. He was getting the ball out, but it was just too late. But I look at that, and as far as with the Philly defensive line, you got to think to yourself, are you willing to take that chance on throwing the kitchen sink at Patrick Mahomes? Yeah. And that's what you said, and I think it kind of coincides with kind of what you're saying, where you throw the kitchen sink at him, you might have a guy downfield, you may have a Scanling or a Juju, someone, So who knows? So it's one of those where it's like it's going to be interesting because Patrick Mahomes can pick you apart. Like this is they're probably their best quarterback they face all year. So I think that's where it is. I think we'll see a definite improvement than what we seen when they played Tampa Bay 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So,
oh, for sure, yeah, that old line against Tampa Bay was just horrible. Mahomes out there. That's the crazy thing. Even though they lost, Mahomes was so impressive in that losing effort.
Like, yeah, I know because I kept on telling people if he had like maybe like 2 seconds, he would have picked them apart.
Yeah.
He literally would have picked them apart. Like,
and then he's running and he's making passes where he's parallel to the ground, throwing it 30 yards down the field.
I was like, and because one of them Tyreek dropped, and it's like, just imagine if he would have had some time and a little bit of zip on it. Yeah, and he had that pressure.
People, and the thing is, I've said on my podcast before, Patrick Mahomes is Michael Jordan to football. And people's like, well, he hasn't won championships. He's only got 1 ring. Like, it's not about the rings. It's about when you watch him play, you're seeing something you haven't seen before. Like Michael Jordan, you can say Steph Curry if you want to. Like, he's somebody who you haven't really seen, and he's changing football. Like, I feel like quarterbacks now, they're going to be looking for the next Patrick Mahomes, right? The GMs are going to be like, can we get a guy who can be somewhat mobile, but also can have all these different angles. He can throw the ball, knows how to improvise. They're going to be looking for that type of quarterback because he's changing the game this year. And it's amazing what we've seen from him in the first 5 years of his career. And he's definitely, and it's a shame though, because people are going, if they lose, they're going to start talking about how he's not coming through in the big moments or in the big game, which is not him. Because you look at this matchup, Philadelphia's a better team.
Right.
So It's like, how can you hold that against him?
Right. And I think we're going to get to a point in his career where he's going to create such, he's going to be such, I call him, he's going to be the ultimate overachiever. Because I think people, and it's crazy because like you said, like people look at he's only lost 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, he's only 27 years old. That's the scary thing about all of this.
Yeah,
he's only 20. Correct, or more. Because you think about it, if he eats right, like if he does like a Tom Brady, that's frightening. This man could literally be here for 18 years if he has a same career. If he's just like Tom Brady, even though that's an anomaly, but I mean he can play till maybe 4, like you said, it could be 10 plus years.
Yeah.
So. And then just the fact that, he keeps like kind of, and I look at it like he's raising the bar. Like he broke the passing record this year.
Yeah.
And that's another one where, and I know people going to say, well, it's 17 games compared to 16. Tomato. Like it's still an impressive feat.
Yeah.
Right. He could have. And that's the thing. And
Yeah.
that's where, like you said, he is like the Michael Jordan. It's almost like, especially from a volume standpoint, and like you said, just that what he's gonna do. He's
Yeah.
gonna do a move that's gonna, oh wow, it's gonna be impressive. Because even like we
Yeah.
talked about that in that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, he was throwing for his life, but he was getting it off though. I like people.
Yeah.
I think people kind of fail to look at that Super Bowl and look at like, hey, he was getting hit and getting pressure, but he got that ball out though. It just won't. It just didn't connect.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, he's legit. And like you said, I think, and I know people are going to say that about Patrick Mahomes, but trust me. And then even the fact that even how impressive he's been, like even in this situation with the Chiefs, because people fail to realize, before the Chiefs, before Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs was a fairly good team, but they ain't running the AFC like they've done for the last 5 years.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like he came into a good situation, but he made it great.
Yeah.
Once he got in. And it takes somebody special to do that, to take a team from, oh, this team is cool, they can win their division, to we're going to be a perennial Super Bowl contender every year. That's a different level,
Yeah.
which, Alex Smith can get you to, we're our division. But then you go from Alex Smith to special.
Yep.
It's a big difference to go from, oh, he's nice, he's a good starter, good dude, nice locker room guy, to, oh, this dude is special. And that's Patrick Mahomes. That dude is special. And you have to just respect what he's doing, because he's going to be one of those guys, like we're talking about LeBron right now. He's going to break some crazy records, and we're going to be like, yo, we got to just respect what Patrick Mahomes is doing.
Appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
They've hosted all the last like
five
eight championships. Put some respect on his name.
Yeah.
Win or loss.
You got to put respect on his name. Or respect with a K, and put that on his name.
Exactly. You can't right. You can't respect without Patrick Mahomes with a K. Yeah. So, who's going to be your X factors? We'll start with the Eagles, and then your X factor for the Chiefs.
So, X factor for the Eagles, I know it's boring to say, but the interior offensive line. You mentioned it earlier how big that matchup is, but Chris Jones, if he don't contain him, he can wreck a game for you. We saw it last year with Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's the reason the Rams beat the Bengals last year. So if Chris Jones, who's playing at an Aaron Donald-like level this year, can have that same type of impact, it could ruin it for the Eagles. So I think the X factor for the Eagles is their interior offensive line. You have to have that correct. And to pick a sexier pick as far as the X factor, it would be one of their running backs. I think Gainwell is somebody who people don't really know like that, but Gainwell could be really big in this game, working off of the read option or the RPOs with Hurts. So Gainwell and the interior offensive line for the Eagles. For the Chiefs, I mentioned it earlier, one of those wide receivers. I'm going to go with MVS to pick one, but one of those wide receivers has to win their individual matchups. They have to be able to get open. You can't just depend on it being a Mahomes and Kelsey show. You can't. Someone else has to step up. So my X factor for the Chiefs is Marquez Valdez-Scantling stepping up. And for the Eagles, it's the interior offensive line. And also one of those running backs, I'm going to pick Gainwell as the running back that could be the sneaky factor there.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. In a weird way, for the Eagles, I think it's going to be Dallas Goedert.
Ooh.
I think it's interesting. It's something that actually, I looked up earlier. I didn't know like how susceptible Kansas City is when it comes to opposing tight ends. Like they've given up 9 touchdowns this season. I think 4 other teams have gave more than 9. So I think that's going to be a potential where he'll be able to get his, and I think in return that's going to kind of keep this Eagles offense on the field, where I can see him kind of extending drives. Because, like you said, and I think I'm like you said, and I know they have the running back committee, and I think they'll be doing a solid job. but I think they'll be necessary. Like you said, it's not gonna be like sexy, but they'll get the job done. I don't expect them to, don't put them in like any of your bets and parlays for these
Yeah,
exuberant type numbers. But I think they can get the job done, and I think a Dallas Goddard could definitely be there as well on
I like
that
that pick.
end. I do want to go. I do want to agree with you to Chris Jones. Like you said, he can wreak havoc, and I think, and with Spags, he gonna probably put him just about anywhere. So I know a lot of people say, well, that's gonna be Landon Dickerson, man. But I like Chris Jones. They gonna put him somewhere. They're gonna try to get him involved, regardless. So it's kind of one of those where it's like, Jason Kelsey, his head might be on a swivel.
Yeah.
Like, because he's going to really kind of try to figure out where this man is going. Like you said, 15 and a half sacks this year. He's somebody that, like you said, could be a game changer. Like Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald, once he got pushed out of bounds in that third quarter, you woke up a sleeping bear. And this could be happening in this game as well, where you might look at Chris Jones and be like, oh, he ain't doing much, but he started making some plays, and then like all of a sudden, you can key in on it.
Yeah.
But somebody who I really, even though in theory this probably maybe one of the biggest mismatches in the game, but somebody who I think can definitely have an impact for the Chiefs is Jalen. What was his Jalen Watson?
Oh, okay.
It's funny. I always feel like when people pick on him in a sense, he performed, because I remember they were killing him that first Thursday night football game against the Chargers, and then he ran one back. And then he also he's had an interception in both the two games, obviously with the Jags and then also with the Bengals. Even though, because I'm not sure about Snead, if he's gonna. I know he's in concussion protocol. I know
they said that he's been cleared.
He's been cleared. Okay, so yeah. So you're looking at either he's probably going. You think Snead probably potentially going to get AJ Brown, and then maybe Watson could potentially get Devontae.
Yeah.
So I think if he can get a turnover, especially considering the fact that Jalen Hurts really don't turn the football over as much. But I think that's kind of a key. If he's on this trajectory as far as, getting an interception, that could definitely help. But he has been giving up some yards. Like, I think it's last week. I think he gave up, no, not last week, but 2 weeks. I think it was like at 91 yards. I think, or 80. I forgot. It was near that, that amount. But if he could, contain, because I'm not gonna say he's gonna shut down Devontae Smith. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
That'll be foolish. But I think if he could contain them, potentially get a turnover in this game, could be the difference. So I definitely think those are kind of the key, the X factors for both for this matchup. For the matchup on Sunday. So.
No, I like both of those picks. And that secondary has a tough job. The Chiefs secondary trying to slow down AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. Like, they have a tough job, and that's going to be real key. If they have to get toasted, it's going to get ugly. Like, they have to make sure that they are keeping contained. And the thing is, what makes it tough, you want to bring in extra help when you see them doing read option, but they can turn that read option into an RPO. And next thing you know, you have Devonta Smith on a quick slant or AJ Brown on a quick slant against one of your corners, and you definitely don't want that with no help behind. Like, this Eagles offense just puts you in so many different quandaries of, what do I do? How do I handle the situation? Yeah. So the Chiefs, I know the Chiefs defensive coordinator and their defensive coaching staff right now is losing sleep, still thinking about it at this moment. Like, how do we stop this? So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I can't wait to see those first few plays to see how each team goes into the game. And then also, as you go throughout the game, the adjustments that are made. Like, it's going to be interesting for sure. It's going to be a real chess match.
And then also, too, and I know I bring this up every Super Bowl, but this is key, too. It's almost like who's going to get the possession in the second half? Like, the momentum. Because it's almost like give or take, you got a longer halftime show.
Yeah,
So
it's like 2 games pretty much.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those where it's going to be very interesting of how this first half is going to play, because I think that's going to be kind of one of those things where, and I'm just throwing out an example. If, say for instance, Patrick Mahomes get the ball, maybe like 3 minutes left to go in the first half, Philly, do their thing, and it goes into the halftime, and then get the ball back in the second half, you're pretty much going to ice Mahomes for potentially an hour. And that might be a strategy in essence, because Patrick Mahomes, you want to kind of keep him off the field as much as you can, sure. Or especially in this case, if you can especially if he's someone in a groove, and for him to kind of be stagnant for an hour, that could really be in Philly's favor. If just throwing out a hypothetical example, but
no, that's a very good point. Like, because that's one thing that people take for granted is the long halftime and even the long start. Like all the things that go into starting the game, it builds up more nerves. Like there's so much that goes into a Super Bowl that we don't think about. But that halftime is really big, because then, like you said, you come out and let's say they have a 10-minute drive to start the second half. Then you really like, yo, Mahomes been sitting down now for a minute. so yeah, that's a really good point right there. So maybe for the opening half, you defer. You say, well, we'll take the ball in the second half, just all for that point alone.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, like I said, that's going to be something that it goes to that strategy where it's just like you said, it's, I know you're a boxing guy. It's almost, it's going to be a boxing match, like who's gonna get that right hook first, who's gonna counter punch, so it's kind of like you said, it's gonna be like that nervousness, yet kind of settling into your game plan, like so kind of seeing how that's gonna play out, in the first couple of minutes of this game, in the first few possessions. So yeah, most definitely. And I don't think we're gonna have an Evan McPherson who's gonna be a player that's actually gonna be watching the Super Bowl, the halftime show. So
yeah, we ain't got no kickers like that out on the field on this one. But
yeah,
hey, I don't blame him though. Like, you a kicker, you ain't gotta be in there for the strategy. Like, let me go chill and relax and watch the halftime show.
I thought it was a joke, because I was like, I was thinking like maybe he's at rehearsal or something. I'm like, oh no, this is live. Like, this man is out here just chilling. I'm like, bro, you better go in that locker room, man.
That's the thing. He's not missing nothing. He can just get all the clip notes.
That's true, because like you said, yeah. But yeah. So D, I gotta ask you the $1 million question. Your prediction and who's gonna be the MVP of Super Bowl 57.
Oh man, I think this is gonna be a really good game. But I think the Eagles are the much better team. Whenever you look at it, really, you break it down, it seems like in every category except quarterback, the Eagles have the advantage. So I'm going to Eagles to win this one, 24-20. And I believe the MVP will be Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Shoot, if that happens, they're gonna have to pull out the Brinks truck.
For sure. Oof. For sure. He about to get broke off for sure.
Yeah, the price about to go up. For sure.
No, yesterday's price will not be today's price.
For sure. Facts. No pun intended, but but yeah, man. Yeah, like you said, this is going to be definitely a great game. And like you said, it's funny, like you said, on paper, we know Philly is essentially the better team, but you got, like you said, you got a Michael Jordan in the house, and the Patrick Mahomes, who could potentially, could take over a game, and like you said, he could have that Jordan effect, and it's just parallel, kind of essentially, your point with him, having that Michael Jordan factor, because they're in every game, regardless of kind of how we think about them, because obviously going into the season, a lot of people thought to themselves, losing a guy like a Tyreek Hill, they're gonna lose a step, But
Yeah, I was wrong about
it
that.
going. Me
For
too.
sure.
I was dead wrong about that. They had me thinking the Chargers were gonna win the West. Boy, was I wrong?
Yeah, that's why you can't doubt Jordan, man. You can't doubt Jordan.
Facts. So we'll put a bow on this preview tonight. So DA, tell them where they can find you on
So
social media.
what's your prediction MVP, man?
I'm gonna hold off on mine. I'm gonna do mine. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on mine. I'm gonna get the official one. Probably gonna be Sunday.
Okay.
But I'll let you know though. I'll let you know before the public know.
Okay.
For sure. But yeah. So DA, tell them where they can find you on social media and in the upcoming project, what you got going on. Plug away.
Man, thank you again for having me on, man. I truly, truly appreciate it. Always a good time, good conversation with you. My podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. You mentioned earlier I'm a boxing guy. I talk NFL, NBA, and boxing on that podcast. We do it at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. So just if you subscribe, you'll get a new episode, usually Monday morning, or you'll get it Monday morning and like Thursday. So you'll always have something. The 3rd and 3 podcast, the football podcast. We did one on Wednesday night with Jason. It was just me and Jason. Nikki's out in Aruba having a good time. She'll be back next week though. So you'll get all three of us. It's a football podcast, but we always have a good time. And even in the off season, you're going to get great just content from that podcast. You always have a good time. Trivia, football, basketball during the off season. So tune into the 3rd and 3 podcast. So subscribe to The Real Deal with Damian Adams and the 3rd and 3 podcast. And if you need somebody dope to follow on social media, go ahead and follow me. The Real Deal, WDA. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in alpha. Whatever your favorite social media platform is, I'm there. Go ahead and check me out.
Yeah, big time. And once again, appreciate you for coming on. And yeah, man. So we'll put a ball on this show. And once again, appreciate you for coming on. And we'll definitely have you coming on, once again with, talk a multitude of topics in the world of sports and what have you. But yeah, so we'll catch you guys on the next episode, and we're out.